moment of silence. And then we're also going to swear in our newly appointed Commissioner, Ms. April Barnes. And then after that, we'll adopt the agenda and do a roll call. So with that, let's bow our heads for a moment of silence, please. Amen. So at this point, we'll go ahead and transition to the swearing in of our newly appointed Commissioner, Ms. April Barnes. If you pause for a second, he's going to turn the Zoom camera around so that those participating virtually can actually see you. Sure.
Okay.
Place your right hand on the Bible and repeat after me.
Is it okay?
Good to go?
Yeah, we can see you.
All right. I, Abra Alexis Barnes,
I, Abra Alexis Barnes,
being about to enter upon execution
being about to enter into execution
of the duties of the office
of the duties of the office
of Commissioner of Housing Authority
of Commissioner of Housing Authority
of the Birmingham District,
of the Birmingham District,
solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Alabama,
the Constitution of the State of Alabama,
so long as I continue
so long as I continue
as a citizen thereof,
as a citizen thereof.
and that I will faithfully
I'm sorry. And that I will faithfully
and honestly discharge the duties
and honestly discharge the duties
of the office
of the office
upon which I am about to enter
of which I'm about to enter
to the best of my
to
ability.
the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
That's right. That's right. So welcome, Commissioner Barnes, and you may take your rightful place now on the dais.
All right, Commissioner. Good to see you.
You're welcome, Commissioner Barnes.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we will now do roll call. I am present. Commissioner Lewis, well, Vice Chairperson Willie J. Lewis,
Here.
Commissioner Pantazis, Commissioner Thompson,
Present.
and Commissioner Barnes.
Present.
Now, just as a point of clarity, because of the open rules meeting, those that are present in person are myself, Commissioner Barnes, and Commissioner Thompson. So those three will be marked present and they will compose our quorum. Vice Chairperson Lewis is participating virtually, but she is not officially able to participate in votes. I'll defer to my legal counsel to make sure I explain that
Correct, Mr.
properly.
Chairman.
Okay, great.
Chairman Hood, for the record, this is Commissioner Pantazis. I'm on as well, but obviously not part of the quorum.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Pantazis. So they can participate in discussions, just not able to participate in official votes.
Thank you.
I'm gonna take my mask off right up here. Okay, so with that, we can now proceed to the adoption of the agenda. Commissioners, take a look over the agenda, and if everything is in order, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as printed.
Motion to adopt the agenda is printed.
I second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we adopt the agenda as printed. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
That item carries. Now we can move to recognition of our HABD Employee of the Month for, is it November and December? December and January.
Good
And I-
afternoon, everyone.
No.
Afternoon.
I'm going to start with December. Billy Wiley is currently employed as the lead maintenance technician at our Kimbrough Homes site under the Housing Operation Department. He has been with the Housing Authority for over 26 years. Mr. Wiley is recognized for his significant contribution to HABD mission and goals. As the lead maintenance, Mr. Wiley shows up to work with a positive attitude, and he consistently takes the initiative to assist his fellow coworkers. He is often requested to assist with special projects at the central office because of his attention to detail and the time that he puts into his work. Due to the change in the weather, Mr. Wiley has made it his mission to make sure that all of the residents at Kimbrough Homes Heat are working, including working overtime to get the job done. Mr. Wiley is recognized for exceptional quality of work, output, outstanding customer service, exemplary leadership, and his strong commitment to excellence. And therefore, we would like to introduce the December Employee of the Month, Mr. Billy Wiley. No, he actually did plan on being here, so something may have changed. He probably addressing a work order or something.
Looks like he's on Zoom.
Is he on?
Mr. Wiley, did I just see you on Zoom?
Yeah, he's on Zoom. I saw him on Zoom.
He was on camera, then he went off camera. I see his name. Okay, he's back on camera now. Looks like he might be trying to come off mute. Mr. Wiley, try to unmute yourself now. Okay, you're unmuted now, Mr. Wiley.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, sir. Something happened. I lost the picture. I don't know what happened. I'm here in my truck, but thank y'all very much.
No problem. Thank you for being an excellent employee. We really appreciate all your service and work for the agency. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Great.
So next, I'm going to introduce the January of the Month employee. Ms. Yamika Ford is currently employed as the interim assistant asset manager under the Housing Operation Department. She's been with the Housing Authority for over 3 years. Ms. Ford provides outstanding customer service by going over and beyond her required job duties. She's also recognized for her exceptional quality of work, output, and efficiency use of resources. Ms. Ford has completed the most resident recertification for the month, which is at 100%. When Ms. Ford arrived at Collegeville site, recertification were behind by several months. Due to her dedication for the residents and the agency, the site recertification have improved every month since she has been leading the charge. Ms. Ford has also taken on challenges of completing the monthly reports. The resident vendors and her coworkers all know her as a caring and positive individual who treats all people she comes across and come in contact with as if they are family. Her dedication to HABD Greater Mission makes her a valuable asset to the agency, and we would like to introduce the January Employee of the Month, Ms. Yamika Ford.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Foy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jefferson Mitchell. Is that all? Okay, perfect. All right. Mr. Northern, I know if you had any words you wanted to say before we went to the next item.
Yeah, I just wanted to say congratulations to both of our recipients. You know, our team has worked really hard. You know, it's challenging even more right now where COVID is on the rise again. There's so many people, you know, that serve our clients has been affected. You know, COVID's hit our agency pretty hard and everybody else. So we appreciate the hard work you guys put in providing the service of housing to the clients that we serve here in Birmingham.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Northern. Right, our next item is the approval of minutes from our last regular board meeting, which was November 18th, 2021. Commissioners, I trust that you've taken a look at the minutes, and if so, I'll entertain a motion to accept those unless there are any kind of edits or amendments that need to be made to it.
Motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of November 18th, 2021.
Second.
Actually, Vice Chairperson Lewis, we can't accept the second from you if you're not in person.
Okay, thank you.
Problem.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second that we approve the minutes from the November 18th, 2021 board meeting. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that item carries. All right, now we'll go to old business. Any old business, Mr. Northern?
I don't think we have any old business to cover. Could somebody pull the agenda up? I'm sorry, being not there in present is kind of hard. Having half the group in present and half the group on Zoom. But could you put the agenda on the screen for me, please? Terrain?
Terrain, he's working on it.
Okay, sorry. But we really didn't have any old business to cover. I know we missed our, we didn't have a board meeting in January, in December, but we did have some conversations around a number of things that we had to work on. I know that, again, I want to welcome our new board member to the organization and to the leadership role of the Housing Authority. So, but as far as all our old business, I think we had that covered.
Great. Yeah, I didn't see any items on the agenda under it. So we'll move to any new business.
Most cases, new business come from the board members. We don't have any new business to add at this point, unless any board members have any new business that they want to talk about or discuss, or some items that they want the organization's leadership to focus on.
At this
Here.
time.
Hearing none, we'll go to President CEO's report.
Okay. Well, first of all, again, I want to say welcome to everyone to this and Happy New Year, because it's the first time we was all able to get together on this new year. As usual, we provide a pretty detailed executive director, CEO, president, CEO report to the board members for their perusal. And we did so again. I want to just reiterate the fact that we still have a lot of overcoming to do as it relates to COVID and some of the issues that we've had to face relating to it. Even though that we have to be in person on our board meetings now, a number of staff members have been affected. So as Dr. Hood, Chairperson Hood Dr. Hood stated earlier, that board members can participate virtually along with staff and other participants, but in order to vote officially, you have to be in person. So I'm glad we was able to have a quorum today. Just recently we presented at FATA and the Public Housing Authority Directors Association in DC, where I'm current president of. We presented on our initiative with the flag football program, NFL flag, and it was really great. We presented in the opening, in the welcome session. The NFL was there, and they presented along with myself, and we had an amazing video profiling our young people and how our team members, Tim, Armand did a great job of helping pull things together, along with a number of the staff for that opportunity. And so the NFL flag is really pushing to deal with underserved communities throughout this nation. And so one of the initiatives that started in Birmingham with NFL flag is now being offered throughout the housing industry. A number of people was impressed with what we was able to pull together, but the benefit of our young people is so amazing. And not only is it about flag football, it's about education. And so we compiling an opportunity where not only is flag being played, but the kids have an opportunity to utilize it as like study tables, like in college and sports. You're required to study, but you're also required to be a student athlete. And so that's great. And the big thing about flag is it's not just for boys, it's for girls. It's a number of young ladies that participated throughout the nation. We haven't had a girls flag team, but I know Mr. Jones's daughter played flag in college. I mean, not in college, but in high school, and she appreciated it. So it's an exciting opportunity to bring flag to our young ladies in our program and underserved communities throughout this nation. We're in the process of submitting a youth build grant. I think it's due tomorrow. Youth build is an amazing opportunity for our young people also that work with age group 16 to 24 to help them to overcome some obstacles. It's a high school based program, so anybody that come to the program that don't have a high school diploma can receive a high school diploma along with the other job skills. It's a pre-apprenticeship program from the Department of Labor. We ran one in Lake County and we ran one in Champaign County. It was very productive for our young people. We're applying as a Jobs Plus organization, meaning that they can focus on more than just construction-based or housing-related type jobs, so they can be certified nursing assistants. And we have a number of community partners that we're applying to. And so I'm excited about that opportunity. I'm in Washington, D.C. right now, and I had an opportunity to speak on a panel with a number of representatives, including HUD staff here in D.C. And it was related to eliminating homelessness throughout our country and how housing authorities can participate in helping those efforts. One of the things that I was able to profile and highlight is that during this COVID pandemic, we had probably $1.2 million of unpaid rent. And if we decided as an organization to terminate individuals that didn't pay, it'd be a mass homeless situation here in Birmingham, but not just here in Birmingham, it's everywhere. I'm thankful that our mayor, Mayor Wolfen and his team was able to come together and give us some funding from the CARES Act funding that they received to help pay down some of those clients' rents. But that's a crucial point that we're focusing and working on. And we've been talking at the national level on how we can make that come to fruition for not just the housing authority of Birmingham, but other housing authorities. Some cities and some municipalities and counties did not work with their housing authorities to help protect some of the clients. But I'm thankful that ours was able to. So that was a great opportunity. While doing that, I had a chance to speak with HUD leadership also here. Marshall Fudge, Secretary Fudge, excuse me, she spoke today at the conference. But other HUD leaders was here. Assistant Secretary Adrian Todman, who's a colleague in housing, used to work at DC Housing Authority, which was an MTW agency, move to work agency. And I talked to the HUD staff about our application in, and I'm hearing good news that we may be awarded that opportunity to be a move to work agency, which is a designation that most housing authorities don't receive. But if we do that, we're applying under the cohort of landlord initiatives. We just had an amazing landlord fair. The staff and team members put it together. I know a lot of people was in attendance, and we worked with the other housing authorities in the county also to ensure that everybody played a vital role, because the housing authorities aren't just one. We all work together as a team. And so that was very exciting to see. And some good news about our grant application that's in HUD's hands now. Hopefully we'll be hearing word very soon about us receiving that application. And lastly, I just want to mention, and I know most of you guys saw, we had an opportunity to have a demo celebration of Southtown, where we started and kicked off the demo of Southtown. And I'm glad to say that at this point, in terms of that development, our minority participation goals are at an all-time high. The demo company is a minority-owned company, and they're doing a great job at starting that process. So unless there's any other questions, Chairman Hood, I have no other further under my report, but we can go into financial services and other departments.
Great. Thank you for that report, and thank you for all the great work that you've been doing, you and the staff. I will say I did get a chance to go to the landlord fair, and just like you said, it was amazing, great work. Ms. Drake, Mr. Emery, I know it's a lot of other people that put a lot of work into that. So really appreciate the work that you did on that. It was great. And now we'll entertain the financial services report.
Mr. Jones?
You're
You on
mute,
mute.
Jones.
Ms. Dontrell is raising her hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Foster. No problem.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Hood.
Ms. Foster, I can't hear you.
Hold on one second. Yeah, can we do it in a little while? Do you need to do it now? Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, point of privilege. We had some technical difficulties with the camera on the swearing in. So we like to take just a couple moments to redo that, just so we can capture those moments, if that pleases the body. So give us just a little, couple minutes, and we'll capture that. Thank you. You can. No, you don't have to totally recreate it, but whatever.
For the mic this time. Mic check.
Is he
Good to
ready?
go.
Is the cameraman ready?
Are you ready? Are we live? Okay. All right, if you could place your right hand on the Bible and repeat after me again. Are you
Amen.
ready?
I'm ready.
I, Abra Alexis Barnes,
I, Abra Alexis Barnes,
being about to enter upon execution
being about to enter into upon execution
of the duties of the office
of the duties of the office
of Commissioner of Housing Authority
of Commissioner of Housing Authority
of the Birmingham District,
of the Birmingham District,
solemnly swear that I will
solemnly swear that I will
support the Constitution of the United States
support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Alabama,
and the Constitution of the State of Alabama,
so long as I continue
so long as I continue
as a citizen thereof,
as a citizen thereof,
and that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
and honestly discharge
and honestly discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
upon which I am about to enter
upon which I am about to enter
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Can we celebrate Mrs. Barnes?
Hey. Thank you. Got it. Okay. Great. All right. Thank you for your patience. I really appreciate that. These are moments that you can't get back, so we just want to make sure we capture that properly. All right, Mr. Jones. You ready? We're ready.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Hood. Let me share the screen. Do I have sharing capabilities?
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Thank you. I don't have a full screen here. 1 second. Okay. Okay. Okay, can everyone hear me? You may have to mind my throat. I have a bit of a scratchy throat today, so hopefully we can get through this and it's not as painful as it sounds. So today's financial report will cover the low-income housing revenue and expense results of operations for the period ended October 31st, 2021. We have a report to present that I will share off screen out of PowerPoint. The report is larger than necessary, then will fit here. So allow me to share the actual financial statement presentation. We will start with the summary of operations and then go into a bit of detail about revenues, expenses, and changes in net assets. We will then entertain questions on the financial report and then finish up with the charge-offs for the months of November and December. Well, let's start with the summary. What I decided I'd do this time was to give a brief summary prior to going into the detail. I think it gives the big picture first and then fills in the holes with the details of those significant revenues and expenses. So in summary, total revenues for the period ended October 31st, 2021 were 2.8 million versus total operating expenditures of 2.1 million to arrive at an increase in net assets of 748,000. If we compare this to the budgeted increase in net assets of 53,000, I would submit that the agency has been a good steward of the revenues earned this period. So now let's do a little bit, take a quick dive into some of the details of significant revenues and expenses. Okay. Allow me to share the next Okay, can everyone see the screen now? Okay, so here again, we see this is a detailed version of the $2.8 million in revenues. I want to highlight first tenant rental revenue, and then we'll highlight operating subsidy. Total rental revenue, tenant rental revenue of $411,000 is driven by the actual rents collected from residents at our housing sites. The variance of $104,000 is due to lease up, occupancy rates, and units offline. As you can see here in the highlighted on line 10, that displays that information. The operating subsidy, on the other hand, is provided by HUD per the individual housing sites in our inventory, and is also driven by occupancy rates and proration. The $67,000 variance is directly attributed to that. Are there going to be any questions at this time on revenues? Thank you. Having none, then we will move down to expenses. We're going to look at administrative salaries and expenses. And so the $115,000 variance represents that we have a number of employees out on workers' comp, as well as vacant positions to be filled. Those positions will be filled after the reorg of personnel is complete and the vacancies are in and the individuals come back off of workers' compensation. Those numbers should be in line with the budgeted amounts going forward. Now let's move to labor, benefits, and materials. Again, we're highlighting those significant items that we feel need explanation under the expense section. Labor, benefit, and materials. You see a significant $644,000 variance, which is attributed to our increase in the budgeted dollars to complete deferred maintenance items throughout the year. As you can see, our actual expenditures are $563,000 versus a budget of $1.2 million. So at the beginning of the year with this budget, we added $3.5 million that we expect to pull down from capital outlays in order to go ahead and finally complete some of these deferred maintenance items. And then once we start to complete those deferred maintenance items throughout the year, then those numbers will start to blend and start to match further and be closer between budget to actual as those items are completed. Next, let's move down to the next important line, in my opinion, is protective services. And we'll see the $70,000 variance here. And again, this is the result of the negotiations and ultimate signing of the protective services contract with the Birmingham Police Department. We're in negotiations, and until we receive that actual signed contract, then we will begin posting invoices to this line item. And again, that should line up along with the budget as well. That takes us down to total operating expenses of $2.1 million. And the change in net assets of $748,000. And that gives you our net increase or decrease in net assets for the period ended October 31st, 2021. I will entertain any questions on the financial presentation at this time.
Board members, any questions about the finances?
Not at this time.
All right, none at this time, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Chairman Hood. So there being none, I will now move to charge-offs for the months of November and December. Is that screen visible to everyone?
It is.
Okay, great, thank you. So here we have charge-offs in uncollectible rents and maintenance charges for the months of November and December. In the month of November, we had $25,042 of uncollected rent or bad debt rent, so to speak, maintenance legal maintenance charges of $390. We held on to deposits for those rents of $650, leaving $24,782 in charge off suggested rents for the month of November. Travel down to the month of December, we had $18,474 in uncollectible rents with maintenance and legal charges, whichever it is combined, of $1,307. We withheld security deposits of $975 for a total of $18,805 for the month of December. All totaled, we're asking for a charge off of $43,588, minus the collections we were able to get through forfeiture of state tax returns for those individuals who do have payments in arrears to us. That amounted to $3,134 for net charge off for the months of November and December of $40,453. If there are no questions on charge offs, then I ask that the board move on allowing these charge offs to be submitted.
Commissioners, I will entertain a motion that we approve the charge offs for November and December in the amounts shown in our documentation.
Move to approve the charge offs for the period ending in November and December of 2021.
Okay, I second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the charge offs for November and December 2021. November in the amount of $24,782 and December in the amount of $18,805. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item carries. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Anything else, Mr. Jones?
Was there any, if there are no more questions, thank you all, and I look forward to speaking with you all on various issues going forward.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Chairman Hood.
All right, Mr. Northern, we got human resources.
Yes, just a second. I was on mute. Sorry about that. I just wanted to say I appreciate I appreciate the Financial Services Committee that's been working with us for the last few months or so to really fine tune our finances, and Mr. Jones and his team. Although we've had some departures, his team is doing an amazing job of keeping up with the finances and procurement. And so you just keep up the good work, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have human resources. We have a lot going on in terms of human resources, and our human resources committee has met also to talk about our reorg of the organization. A number of our executive leadership team members have been working with our consultants to make sure that come to fruition in the right way possible. And now we have that presentation from the human resources. Who's leading that one? Ms. Foster?
She's coming.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. It's hard to see without.
Yeah, no problem.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Afternoon.
Mr. Northern, Attorney French and French, and all those that are present on Zoom and here today. We want to begin our presentation as it relates to the revision of the Human Resources Policy. So I want to acknowledge Jason Gino on Zoom and with Human Capital Initiatives. And we have Matthew Scully with Burr and Foreman. I'm just trying to scan and see if I see you on Zoom, if you're present.
Yes, I'm here. Morning, everyone, or good afternoon.
Jason Gino, you present?
I am present. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Okay, at this time, we'll turn over to Jason Gino for a presentation as related to the HR revisions.
Thank you. So, Commissioners, I do want to share my screen just to show you an outline of bullet points of the major changes in the manual. I believe you all have a copy of it that has the red line changes. Matt is on the line with us as well, so he can also add comments to these changes to go through them. Once I go through them, please don't hesitate to ask questions from there. The HR committee, we did go online with the HR committee and discuss in depth the changes as well. So nothing new that hasn't changed that we didn't present already, but we want to go ahead and discuss it with you. All the changes have been discussed with legal. So legal has provided their feedback and we formalize these. So let me share my screen. Hopefully you all can see that. This is just the bullet points and the major updates. Throughout the policy manual, the titles changed and they're reflective of the organizational chart changes. And that's to reflect anything needed to accommodate, chief versus vice president, those type of things. Those changed throughout the manual. It was an alternative dispute resolution. Really, it was null and void. Wasn't a program that was in place or being used at Birmingham. So that's per recommendation of Attorney Scully. That's going to be removed. We redefined classifications in the manual. Birmingham has a new compensation structure and new classification structure that goes along with the organizational charts, and that's redefined in the policy manual as well. The employee designations, types of designation, whether you're part-time or you're full-time, that was shortened a little bit. There was a durational part-time, which was taken out and it wasn't needed. And that conforms to best practices. Introductory period. There was a discussion in the introductory period in the manual that stated that someone would be moved back to automatically to a position in 15 days if it didn't work out. Now, instead of automatically going back, it's discretion up to the CEO whether a person can move back. And that's because if a position didn't exist anymore or for other reasons they couldn't move back, we want to have that flexibility. Temporary assignments, termination. There was language in the termination that was added regarding layoffs to provide flexibility in the event that they had to vacate positions due to budget issues, which commonly occur in housing authorities. Again, that's within best industry practices. Temporary reassignments. There was language in the temporary reassignments for director level and up that basically stated that individuals that were of that level would receive pay automatically if they were covering other positions. And that's an anomaly, in the industry. Often leadership positions are often asked to take on additional responsibilities and not always with additional pay. So that there is a caveat in there that they can receive additional pay, but it's not automatic. Harassment and affirmative action. This language is updated to reflect best practices. Again, Matt and I and my team talked about any harassment and affirmative action language need to be changed to be reflective of best practices. And then harassment descriptions. And Matt, I'm not sure if you want to go into this at all, but there was a little bit more description of harassment descriptors, if you will, categories. And we didn't want to categorize harassment. We want to make sure that people knew that harassment can be all encompassing of different areas and not limit that. So I believe that's at Matt's recommendation here. Matt, I don't know if you want to jump in on that at all.
Yeah, sure. Just briefly, there was a very detailed description of what constitutes harassment, and it was a definition that was consistent with the law, but the law creates a high standard for what's illegal harassment. It has to be, for example, severe and pervasive, and it has to affect the person's conduct, work performance, for example. And I thought it'd be clearer and simpler and even better to say we prohibit harassment, whether it's sex harassment, race harassment, disability harassment. We want people to report to us who've been harassed regardless of whether it meets this high legal standard. We want to know if someone's being treated unfairly, so HR can investigate and we can take the appropriate steps.
Thanks, man. We also, there's a portion of the manual that says, what do you do if you feel our policy has been violated? We further refine those steps so it's very clear the resources necessary, contacts, if you will, if a policy has been violated, who to see, how to contact them. That's more clear. We've added a whistleblower protection, again, within best practices to have a whistleblower protection policy. Employee introductory period. We provided more flexibility for continued employment. The original language basically said that if they were unsuccessful in the introductory period, they would not sustain employment. And often within best practices is to allow that maybe under, excuse me, maybe under a professional development plan, performance improvement plan, something that allow them to continue on without just automatically removing the employee. Performance assessment standards. We'll be working with Birmingham on new performance measurements that may differ according to what's in the manual. It's unusual to have set performance criteria in the manuals versus either by position or by level. And we'll be working with them as new job descriptions have been rolled out. So that's changing as well. Timekeeping, it wasn't a defined timekeeping procedure policy. That's being updated. We're going to implement that into the manual so people are aware of timekeeping procedures and policy and make sure they know how to do their timekeeping. There wasn't a telephone use and visitors policy. How to communicate via phone while you're working for the agency, how to address visitors, all part of a healthy customer service experience for the agency. And so employees can all work together to better understand and address the community. Cell phone policy, we added a cell phone policy. There wasn't a detailed cell phone policy. There wasn't an emergency closing and an emergency response plan. We're also recommending that the agency implement a business continuity plan as a separate component. We're adding the emergency closing and response plan. We added a workplace violence prevention policy, again, part of best practices. The corrective action steps, this is to take an individual who may not be performing well and to allow a more clear set of guidelines and steps. And this is a typical procedure we use in our housing authority clients. So it's, I think, more clear now. It allows the person to understand if they're in a written warning, what could be next and what possible steps to make them perform better are possible. Let's see, sorry, I lost my place here. All right, security inspections. There wasn't a security inspections discussion there. That's a typical best practice within a policy manual to have. What are security inspections? Why are they there? What are they used for? Grievance and appeals. This is updated to reflect work complaints only. It needed to reflect that language, state that. The FMLA language was updated just to reflect what any changes in FMLA and to be very clear what FMLA is there for. Workers' compensation, we added more of a reporting function, so that's in there, and also any ability to have modified work procedures, which was not in there. And then we added a records retention draft procedures for anything from personnel records to program-specific records that'll be further detailed from the HCB on. And then employee separation policies. How do employees separate? What is it? It's resignation, it's dismissal, elimination due to layoff. And that's all, again, within best practice so people understand, if employees separate, what are different types of ways they separate. So commissioners, those are the major pieces. Obviously, there were some grammar changes here and there. And then there'll be some formatting changes as we finish cleanup on this. questions I can entertain, or Matt, either one of us can entertain.
Thank you, Mr. Gino. Commissioners, do you have any questions about the proposed changes to our HR policy?
At this time.
I will just note that I think you accidentally may have skipped over corrective action steps when you were reading through the steps. So if there was something that you wanted to highlight about that, you went from security inspections to grievances.
Sure.
So was there anything that you wanted to illuminate about that?
Just wanted to make sure that people were clear that the corrective action steps are more detailed now, not more punitive, just more detailed.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure we didn't miss anything with that.
Thank you.
That's all I have at this time.
Mr. Foster, anything you want, Ms. Foster, you want to add anything?
Yes, I would like to also ask that you go over the gap coverage. We made some changes under that. And I think Matthew Scully, it'd be better for you to go over that since that was in your area. The retiree coverage.
Oh, the retiree coverage. Yes, so we I have to pull that up. So we had an attorney in our office who specializes in benefits. Look at that. Jason, do we have the language in front of us, or I guess I can talk about it more generally. There was
I'll see if I can find it while you're talking.
and this was an issue Logan in our office dealt with, but the big picture was that there was a potential liability to the housing authority. The way the policy read, it seemed open-ended whether certain employees who reach a certain age and have certain years of experience could have insurance coverage for a time period. And so what we did was we clarified what that means. We limited the applicability. We put in protections for certain employees who had certain years of experience and had reached a certain age and may have known about this and considered this as part of their retirement, so that they would be protected. But for younger workers, workers who may not have been relying on it or may not have known of this language, we clarified when it applies and when it doesn't. So we thought, it limits risk, it limits exposure to the housing authority. It took into consideration there are persons who may have known about this and been relying on it, and we wanted to protect them. And then it clarifies, for the younger employees going forward, this is how the policy will work.
Thank you, Mr. Scully.
Thank you, Mr. Gino and Mrs. Scully, Attorney Scully. So at this time, I'd like to present to the commissioners the request for board action. The board action for the approval of the revised human resource policy. The consultants, Human Capital Initiative, and Employment Law Attorney Burren Foreman work with executive leadership to review and revise the policy, to make changes for the development of standard operating procedures and the compliance with federal and state employment laws. The policy included revisions, additions, and deletions as shared in the presentation. The newly revised policy outlines the changes of the agency during the proposed reorganization. The policy impact is to remain consistent with the authority's policy to maintain a current human resource policy. The last revision was conducted April 15, 2021. There are no economic impacts or alternatives. The resolution reads as follows. Resolution authorizing the president CEO to approve the revision of the human resource policy. Resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority of the Birmingham District, authorizing the president CEO to revise the human resources policy in the following areas. There's general provisions, the organizational plan, classification plan, compensation plan, recruitment and selection, equal employment opportunity, discrimination, harassment, and affirmative action, orientation and monitoring, performance assessment, employee conduct, disciplinary procedures and appeal privileges, open door grievance policy, and the working conditions and employment benefit. The human resource policy changes shall become effective February 1st, 2022, upon your approval.
Thank you, Ms. Foster. Commissioners, I will entertain a motion to authorize the president CEO to revise the human resources policy as stated in the request for board action.
In my work, so I make a motion to approve the revised human resource policy. That's okay? Okay.
It's okay.
Second.
Been moved and properly second that we authorize the president and CEO to make changes to the human resources policy as stated. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item carries. Thank you, Ms. Foster.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Mr. Northern, we're ready for assisted housing in section 8.
Yeah, I want to say before we move on to that, I want to thank our executive leadership team again for working so hard. I know it's been tough and challenging going through our changes related to human resources, aligning the staff and the team members for the services we need to provide for the organization. But we finally got here, right? It took so long. Thank you, Jason, and thank you for our attorneys also for helping us on through that tough time. So let's who's next? I think
President Northern.
yes.
I'm sorry, I have one quick question. CEO Northern. Just, I know that it's going to be effective February 1st. Is there any plan of disseminating the policy throughout the offices just to make sure everybody has it prior to February 1st?
Yes, once it becomes, once the board approve it, we'll be start our process of submitting it to all the staff. They have to sign so that they received this. They have full.
I'm sorry, there was a little bit of echo, but I think I heard you say they have to sign that they received it.
Yes, we have a notification process to ensure that all staff members are aware of any changes in our policies. And so they will get a copy before it become effective.
Okay.
Once the board approves it.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Hey, Ms. Drake, you're up.
okay, great.
And
Thank you.
just for the benefit of those that are on virtually, Ms. Foster said they're prepared to distribute that as early as tomorrow.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good
I'd first
afternoon.
like to congratulate Ms. Barnes on your new appointment, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you all for allowing me to present this action item at today's meeting. Today, I have one request for board action approval, which is revision to the Section 8 Administrative Plan. We are requesting to add verbiage for and definitions of veteran and veteran families and a special housing preference for veterans. I will go over the requested changes. Feel free to let me know if there are any questions. As a reference, please note that all text with strike through signifies deletion and all text with red denotes additions. So the first one is the definition and addition to veteran and veteran families. This definition, as you can see, comes from the Department of Veterans Affairs. Exhibit A is the requested changes are to update the introductory verbiage, which is ensuring awareness that all of our prior most recent 3 preferences will be available for any open Section 8 waiting list. There is also a disclosure at the bottom to inform all that in addition to the specified 3, each individual waiting list for Section 8 assistance may include additional preferences. Each waiting list public notice will list those available preferences that applicants may apply for. Exhibit H, which tells us more about the villas at Titusville. The villas at Titusville is one of our project-based voucher sites. It is a development from our prior Loveman Village Public Housing Community. Phase 2 of the property, which is a PBV property, project-based voucher property, has 7 set-aside units for veterans. As such, in order to ensure that those units are leased to the required population, we need to add the said preference of veterans for this community. You will also see that we are adding those prior newly added preferences to this site's page as well. And so pretty much the way that the veteran preference came about is that during their application, the owners of the villas at Titusville, they set aside and got agreement with their funding that they would have 7 set-aside units for veterans. So as a result, we need to ensure that those are the families that get into those 7 units. Please let me know if you have any questions related to the approval of this action.
Thank you, Ms. Drake. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Drake on this proposed action?
The only question I have is, did something happen to spur this, or is there a veteran who felt they were denied housing, or what spurred the?
No, so the villas at Titusville, they have the RAD project-based vouchers, which is the first 100 that leased. We're in the process of executing or about to execute the housing assistance payment, which is the HAP contract for the second phase, which is 62 units. So in that process, they informed us that with their funding, they have 7 units set aside specifically
So this
for
is
veterans.
proactive.
Yes,
So this-
ma'am.
okay,
So we
great.
can start leasing that property.
Okay,
But
great.
in order to start, we have to get that to make sure those veterans get those units.
Understood.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to make these approved revisions to the Section 8 administrative plan.
Motion to approve the revision to the Section 8 administrative plan.
I second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve the revisions to the Section 8 administrative plan. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item carries. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you,
Drake.
Commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you again for the landlord affairs. Really good. Yep. Go ahead, Ms. Northern, I'm sorry.
I was just telling her, thank you also for that, that update that we needed. That's all.
Okay, great, thanks. Real estate development.
Okay, we have our real estate consultant along with Ms. Hilliard, Cindy Herrera, and Ms. Hilliard. Well, I see you at this podium now, so you're ready.
Go ahead, Ms. Hilliard.
Good afternoon, commissioners and everyone present.
Good afternoon, Ms. Herrera. Let's I think Ms. Hilliard is teeing something up right now.
Oh, yeah. Just 1 second, Cindy. Good afternoon, commissioners. Welcome aboard, Commissioner Barnes. Cindy, we do have the hard copy for the commissioners to hand to them before you get started. Commissioners and those that are on Zoom, we have our real estate development consultant, Cindy Herrera, who's going to give our development report for the new year. For those of you who are not aware, Cindy has been renewed for term, I believe it's 3 years, to work with our department in terms of development. We have a lot of action items coming forth. So we do have the hard copies if you would like a copy.
Oh, thank you.
Can everyone see the screen?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, okay, great.
Cindy,
All right.
Before you get started,
Yeah.
let me say a couple of things again. I know that one of the main issues that we're here facing in Birmingham is our repositioning of our inventory. And so and looking at our current inventory and trying to be as aggressive as possible, but also in a true spirit of making sure that our current clients that we're dealing with are taken care of in the right way. We went to an aggressive approach of eliciting a number of developers. So the real estate development team, along with our consultant and other members, did a great job with pulling all our RFQs together, evaluating them, and selecting these finalists to work with our team throughout the next few years on a very aggressive development of number of properties throughout our inventory. So with that being said, go ahead, Cindy. I know the board.
Okay,
Really.
great, thank you. At our last board meeting, we had brought in, the board had selected the development teams based on the evaluation scores, as Mr. Northern just referenced, through the solicitation process. After the board's approval, we went back to each of the teams, and throughout December, we met with all the teams on various occasions to discuss the projects. And so at this point, we've basically assigned developments, or each team has agreed to work on various developments, as you see in front of you here. And so we're at the preliminary stages right now of developing preliminary business terms with each of the developers. We have a total of 10 teams that will be working on the various properties. We have some vacant land as well, and we're working with this last team, Presswick, in looking at some of our vacant parcels. As you recall, as we've talked about our repositioning in the development committee in particular, a lot of our strategy will include transferring assistance from some of our existing sites, particularly the sites where we have some challenging environmental concerns or surrounding environmental issues. And so while it indicates a particular property, many of these developers brought forth vacant land or other sites in which we will be moving some of the units off of the various sites to other locations. So we will be coming back with each and individual property as we begin the development planning process. Our next step actually is to finalize the preliminary business terms. We will be presenting those to the developers starting next week and doing negotiations with them. We anticipate that we would be back in front of the board at the March meeting to present to you the business terms with each team and to present those for approval at the March meeting. Are there any questions on where we are on our repositioning strategies? If not, I'll move on. I'm sorry.
No,
The question?
No.
Okay, great. I'll move on to Southtown redevelopment. As we mentioned, and I'm sure as everybody has seen as you drive by, the demolition began in earnest in Block D. Block D is still our priority because we have the two developers that are positioned to be able to start the redevelopment later this year. Block D is well underway with 6 of the buildings pretty much demolished and the other buildings in some progress of demolition. These are just some photos that we picked up from our field report of the various demolition buildings that you can see as we move forward. We've had a couple of challenges with the demolition. The first has been actually the utility line providers. We've had to relocate many of the utility lines in order to continue the access to Block A, which was not originally anticipated when the demolition specifications were prepared by the architect. Alabama Power has actually completed the relocation of their lines. Spire Gas is currently finalizing. We had a little bit of a challenge getting them moving, but we've got Spire moving and the gas lines are being relocated to serve Block A, as well as some of the facilities at St. Vincent's. And then AT&T is also finalizing the relocation of their services. We anticipate that all the utility service should be done by the end of this month. The other challenge we found is that as they began the demolition in Block D, there was additional asbestos, particularly in the attics, that was not previously identified. We had our environmental consultant go out and do additional testing, and they found about what they're estimating at this point, about 3,500 linear feet of asbestos materials in the crawl spaces and the attics throughout various buildings in all blocks. So what we've done at this point is we've asked the architect to prepare some actual specifications for the remediation. The contractor has provided us with a preliminary estimate of about $235,000 that it's going to take to remediate all of this additional asbestos. And we will process a formal change order that we'll bring back once we have all that finalized. In addition to that, because of the delay that we had in actually starting the demolition, and if you recall, that delay was related to the historic preservation provisions that we had to negotiate with the state SHPO office. Because we've had some delays, there also were some additional material increased cost related to supply chain. So again, we'll be bringing back a change order log with the various change orders as a result of all of this. The unsuitable soils, this was something we brought for discussion previously. Again, we found that there are soils that are not suitable in accordance with our development agreement with the developer. We went back to Building and Earth and Shoal Engineering and Studio 2H, who is our architect and engineers for the project. They've provided us with recommendations on those soils and what has to be done to bring the fill up to where it needs to be. So basically at this point, we've also received a change order request for the architect and engineering services to finalize everything that has to be done to address these unsuitable soils. And we're currently have that request under review and we'll bring back a recommendation. As far as the redevelopment, Breck Development was successful in receiving the 9% tax credit allocation, but it was a 2020 allocation. And because of the various delays, as well as the challenges that they're having in increased construction cost, They were unable to close when they expected to do so at the end of last year. So they've gone back to Alabama Housing Finance at this point to request an exchange of the 20 credits for 21 credits. That gives them basically an extra year or through December of 23 to be able to complete construction on their project. We believe that this will be approved. Alabama Housing Finance has indicated that they're going to approve this. It's something that they've done for other developers, given the circumstances right now with what's going on with increased construction costs because of the supply chain and COVID-related issues. BREC is working on finalizing their financial projections based on the increased construction cost. And we're waiting to get final projections from them. They're currently waiting for the appraisal to be able to determine what the maximum financing is that they can support. So we meet with them, on a regular basis and go over where they are. The Benoit Group, who's doing our senior housing, is working on their actual financing applications. They are hoping to be able to go to the submit those to Alabama Housing Finance by the end of this month, within the next week or so. The good news on that is that there was a significant increase in the fair market rents for the small area fair market rents. And Southtown happens to be in the highest cost fair market rent area. And so it significantly reduced the financing gap for this project. The authority had previously committed up to $5.5 million of secondary financing. We have now gotten that down to 1.5 million. So while we have some increased cost for demolition, we've experiencing some decreased gap financing on the redevelopment. So that was pretty exciting to be able to reduce that by that level. The final thing with Southtown is we have a parcel of land that I had presented previously to the board, that what we learned when we did title work is that AlDOT actually owns this small parcel of land along 26th Street. They have agreed to release that to us at fair market value, but they have a pretty lengthy process, and they've told us as of last week that it'll be about 90 days before they can secure final approval to be able to release that to us. So we're just continuing to work with AlDOT to get that process completed. Any questions on Southtown at the moment? It's kind of a high level overview. All right, couple of other transactions that I'm very excited about. Tuxedo Court number 1. This is the first phase that we did at Tuxedo over 10 years ago now. It had been sitting with 2.0. Yes.
Looks like Chairman Hood is trying to make a statement.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chairman Hood.
That's okay. I was just had some concerns about the additional asbestos, the 235,000, and then the change order request. I don't know if that's something that we can speak on now, but certainly doesn't sit well with me. Can you give some additional thoughts around that, either you or Mr. Northern, about those two issues?
And you go ahead. Go ahead with that. Some of the, and Dr. Hood, believe me, when you're looking at these change orders and the increased costs, some things that we just can't help when we start opening up walls and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's some additional problems, but I'll let Cindy go into a little more detail about that.
Yeah, the way that the demolition specifications were written, it had an allowance for certain items, and there was an allowance for asbestos because it had not been measured exactly how much asbestos was in there. And obviously what we've learned is that the allowance was significantly too low. As they began to get into Block D is when they identified that there was substantially more asbestos than what had been anticipated. We did have, as I mentioned, our environmental consultant came back out, did the testing, and identified the 3,500 linear feet. When they did the initial testing back a couple of years ago, they had not identified asbestos in as many spaces as they found it. So once you, as Mr. Northern mentioned, when you open things up, you just sometimes find stuff. I think overall, it was a different team that was engaged when this process started. And I think that, there just may not have been either enough testing up front. I really don't know, what transpired previously before the specifications were let. But we are looking at this very closely. We will bring back, all of the change orders. We've asked the architect to provide us with an analysis on everything and why these things weren't, part of the original specifications. The asbestos is one of those things that simply just wasn't caught. The unsuitable soils, until you got under the buildings, you didn't necessarily know what soils were there. But I agree, Dr. Hood, that there, in some cases I've questioned many times, why didn't we have a little bit more investigation up front? And we should have known this going into this project. And unfortunately, the specifications just didn't address some of these additional issues that we're finding. We will, we, like I say, we've had engineers and architects engaged to give us their best professional recommendations. And they've given us pretty detailed reports on all of these issues, which we'll be glad to share with the board if they'd like to have that detail level.
Yes, we would. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'll prepare a package that we can submit to the board that shows the various reports from the architects and engineers that surround these various issues.
Great. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Now on the good news side is Tuxedo Court 1 was built about 11 years ago, and it was done as the tax credit property, but there was an equity installment, would have been considered the last equity installment for almost $2.6 million that had never been paid. It was being held by the investor for over 10 years. The reason it had not been released is that HABD was never able to meet the conditions for the release of that last installment. One of it related to a clear title issue, and the second issue was meeting stabilization for operations of the property. It was one of the things I became aware of when I first came on board at HABD, and have been working with the investor ever since. And we have now negotiated a release of that $2.6 million. Basically, what we're going to do at this point is we've negotiated our first right of refusal early. We had a first right of refusal at the end of a 15-year period, but I've been able to negotiate with RBC that we can exercise that now. On December the 8th, we actually sent them a formal letter advising them, and we have an agreement that they're going to release that $2.5 million to us. We've received the preliminary legal documents for that, and we're hoping to get those signed by Mr. Northern by Monday and get them back to RBC, and hopefully we'll see receipt of those funds shortly in sometime in February. So that's a very good news that we're happy to get that money to come back in. That comes in as business activity, unrestricted federal funds. So we're very excited about that to have available for future development.
Exactly.
Yay.
Yeah, that's a major win.
Yes.
Having that type of money just sitting around, not being able to be utilized, especially what we're dealing with now. We really need that funding and to move forward with what we have to do with the rest of the repositioning. So I thank you to Cindy and the rest of the team for working on that. I know when you mentioned it to me, I said, hey, let's go after it right now. So
yeah, we got it. So that was a good win. The other thing with Tuxedo Courts that we've been working on for a while are the home ownership units. There's been issues there that we have not been able to sell off the homes because of title issues. And the title issues had to do with lot lines and survey and the land just not being correct. We've been working with our real estate legal and with a surveyor, and we've actually resurveyed the site. We've adjusted the lot lines to be able to provide appropriate legal descriptions for each individual lot. Currently, the surveyor's in the process of finalizing the legal descriptions and being able to record the revised, basically subdivision and lots. That then will allow legal to be able to produce clean titles. And then at that point, we will finally be able to sell off these units. There are some existing residents who have been trying to purchase their unit. And then we've got some other residents who are there as renters. So we've got to work through the rest of this process, but we're getting much closer in trying to get this finally resolved as well, because this has been one of those long-standing issues that we've not been able to get resolved until now. And then Farrington Apartments, this was one of our RAD components where we took 20 units from Tom Brown and relocated them to Farrington. This is actually a very complex transaction because not only was it a RAD conversion, it was also what is known on the multifamily side of HUD as a mark-to-market transaction. So it was a combination of a RAD and a mark-to-market conversion. Under the mark-to-market conversion, this property was an existing property with an FHA mortgage on it. When you go under the mark-to-market program, the debt is forgiven when the general partner in the partnership is a nonprofit. And so the way the deal was structured, after peeling apart the onion and getting to all the pieces, the deal was structured that HABD's nonprofit affiliate would assume the general partner interest. And at that time, then the debt would be forgiven. The developer has asked us to take the GP interest, but we wanted to make sure we don't do that until the debt forgiveness documents are finalized and HUD has concurred on them, so that we aren't taking on debt that we can't afford to take on. And so right now, the developers council is working on those debt forgiveness documents, and hopefully we'll see those soon and we'll be able to get this transaction finalized as well. So again, this is one of those cleanup things we've been working on for several months to get to the bottom of it all. And then finally, I think Ms. Kanji mentioned that the phase 2 of Titusville is reaching construction completion. We have certificates of occupancy for 40 units. There's an additional 22 units that are substantially complete, but we're awaiting final punch list, and we're currently working on finalizing the HAP contract for all of those units. Any questions?
Any questions, commissioners?
I have one quick question, just on the Farrington Apartments. Is there a time frame on when we might hear back about the debt forgiveness documents, or is it just more of an ongoing situation?
We had a conference call with their legal counsel shortly before the holidays, and I was expecting to have something back this month. So I'm hoping to see those hopefully within the next week to couple weeks at the most.
Great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I have.
I have a question. Who's doing the punch list for Villas of Titusville?
One of the HABD inspectors, Mr. Frazier, is working on that punch list in conjunction with the developer.
Thank you.
And I know Ms.
Yes,
Lou,
ma'am.
I know in the prior, we had some issues related to our punch lists and our redevelopment at Freedom Manor. So we're taking the extra time to ensure that we dot all the i's and cross all the t's related to not just that project that we just talked about, but all our projects here on out, even if we need to bring outside inspectors in to take a look at some of that.
You have questions? Ms. Hill, anything you want to add?
No.
All right, great.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Herrera, for
Thank
that update. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're at a point where we will welcome presentations by persons desiring to speak before the Board of Commissioners. If you'd like to speak, please let me know, let me acknowledge you. And we try to keep our questions and comments to 2 to 3 minutes. So anybody wishing to speak before the board, please let me know. Anyone? All right, hearing none, we will close that. The next item on our agenda is executive session. We will go into executive session for the purposes of discussing our HR organizational matters as well as personnel matter. Attorney French, are we in line to go into executive session for those purposes?
Yes, Dr. Hood, pursuant to Alabama Code Section 36-25A-7A1, 3, and 4. We will be cleared to go at this time. Will we reconvene afterwards? to go
Uh,
into adjournment?
We will reconvene and only other item would be to adjourn.
And how long do you expect for us to be in executive session?
I would say no longer than 30 minutes.
Perfect. We'll need a motion and roll call vote
All right.
to go in.
Commissioners, I will entertain a motion for us to go into executive session.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we go into executive session for approximately 30 minutes to discuss HR and personnel. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Mr. Northern, who would you like to participate in the executive session?
At the beginning of the session, I think we should have Ms. Foster, Mr. Jones, Mr. Emery, along with our consultants, HR consultants, Jason and our attorney, our HR attorney.
Okay, great. So Terrain, will you put us in a room to do that virtually? Who? Who she said? Alicia, okay.
I mean,
A breeze started coming through here.
yeah, it got real cold for a second.
I got cold.
Yeah, I had to put my coat on. I'm like, it really is 32 degrees outside. We can,
34, but you know.
okay, well. 2
But it
degrees.
shouldn't be that in the room.
That's what it is. It
Yeah, I
was
know.
for a second it was.
Oh, no, yeah.
And I'm not even a cold nature person. I'm like, geez.
It's at 83. I guess. We're talking about.
What's talking about the computer screen?
It's at 83.
It
outside.
might be 83 itself.
Sometimes it be tied to certain cities.
Yeah.
Tied to
I don't even look
Florida or
at all
something.
that. Can't look at all that.
Now it changed. It's at
But yeah,
30
that-
degrees.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's cold.
Yeah, he's already.
The breeze, everything coming through my leg.
Right. We have completed executive session. I will now have a roll call of commissioners present. I am present. Commissioner or Vice Chair Lewis. She's on
Yes.
virtual. Commissioner Thompson,
Present.
Commissioner Pantazis, and Commissioner Barnes.
Present.
Right, so we have a quorum with myself, Commissioner Barnes, and Commissioner Thompson. And now the only other item that we have is adjournment. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we adjourn the meeting. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Good to close, Attorney French?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you all for your patience. I know we said 30 minutes, but we had a lot to discuss. So thank you and thank you for your attendance. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.